describing an underwater UFO as large as a football field, moving at hundreds of miles per hour underwater.
Have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself of non-human origin craft?
Yes, I personally interviewed those individuals.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Aliens exist and President Trump knows about it.
The United States and Israel have been in contact with a group of aliens for years.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology.
We are not all to be traced back to one blob of germplasm.
And the implant is finally removed.
There's no evidence how the object got inside the body.
Can you comment on the drones?
Our military knows where they took off from. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
What's good, people? Good to see you on the stream, man. So, oh my goodness, throwing everything over. So good to see you guys. Well, let me fix my camera quick. I really want to start with that. I really appreciate you all. Yeah, man. The interview with Jay Anderson, man, is blowing up. At least for me, it's blowing up, man. I appreciate every single one of you that joined me, that joined the family now, and yeah, man, gifted me a subscription. You're very welcome to the channel. So very happy that you're here, supporting my work, trying to discover what is going on, man. You know, since the interview, I had so much stuff that I want to research. It is incredible. You know, I bought books from Dr. P. Masters, is Michael P. Masters, yeah, exactly. Which is incredible, you know, talking about the extraterrestrial alien model, if grace might be our future us. Yeah, this, which is one huge topic on its own, and I looked a lot into Richard Dolan, and you know, it's like here Joseph Farrell talking about the bell, and it's, dude, I mean, all those are things that I've, you know, heard about definitely, and I've seen them before, but I've never I never really dug too deep into them. So it's very interesting to research all of this. But today, now we're going to watch something different, and it is to no surprise that it's, yeah, it's about missing scientists, because lately we see this huge disappearing of scientists that are always involved into some type of, you know, energy, science, propulsion systems. It's always kind of linked into something, you know, space program, NASA type things, whatever. Always in kind of the same thing, working in the same field. So it is ridiculous. I think we are counting 11 or something. 11 scientists went missing. I gotta say, this one woman though, it's not that recent. So it is a little bit weird that she got counted also as the 11th, you know, scientist missing. So it's kind of like old news, you would say. So I feel like they added her for this, you know, just to have some scientists again to get news, you know, to push something out. But anyways, nonetheless, it's very sad and scary to see all of those scientists disappearing, dying, you know, let's say the usual happenings that we can see in this world. And I already made a post about that on X. I'm very much wondering. And I really mean that with all the respect, right? So if anyone that really died there, you know, for looking for, let's say, the better option for us humans, in terms of energy, whatever, technology to help us humans live in peace and stuff, you know, whoever died because of that, because of looking for the truth and doing good, they deserve a lot of respect. So I really, you know, show them my gratitude. I'm very thankful for them, and all my respect to them. That's being said first. The other thing is though that it's, and this is more like a fictional thing, you know, I'm not saying it is like that, but I mean, we are living in a crazy world. We all know that. Having the Epstein files and everything. So we know there's a lot of shit going on, right? So what I'm wondering sometimes is, could this also be some kind of, I don't know, witness protection program, something going on? Because I feel like, why do we see all of those news now? I mean, this has been around for decades. And I mean, talking about the principle, how all this works, definitely even longer, right? So why are they showing us all these scientists now? Why is it mainstream media pushing? And living in times that we are living in, and I do get the feeling sometimes that it's it could be some kind of preparation going on, because, you know, we see those scientists. We have Donald Trump talking about the release of UFO files. We have Anna Luna Paul talking about you have to read the Book of Enoch and stuff like that. So it's, you know, there's so much news coming out lately, you know, pushing into this direction of things we were never talking about before in a serious way. It was always this kind of joke and conspiracy, you know. But for some reason, we can find it everywhere, really, and it's really everywhere. We have the New York Post, you know, sharing stuff about time travel Trump. We have, what was the other thing that I meant now? It was time travel Trump. And then we even have Epstein, the Epstein files. You know, the Epstein files where they talk about the effect on the physical body while time traveling, that they have to find out what it does, right? So it's like, why would you talk about that if it's not even existing? And then, again, I came across this theory about the grays, and then, I mean, I was, you know, talking to Jay Anderson, and he told me about the guy like Michael P. Masters, and it's so interesting, and I hear this thing quite a lot now, and it's just in terms of synchronicities. I sometimes feel like we are, you know, we might see synchronicities in the outside, which is kind of maybe could be a hint that things could be like it, you know? But who knows, man? I really don't know. In the end, we will find out. So this is why, long story short, we're going to take a look at the great deep dive by Jesse Michels, man. And this is one thing. If any one of you is very informed in terms of copyright, man, I really tried with the help of AI and everything and my own deep research. I'm not 100% certain if I am allowed to actually live stream the videos of Jesse Michels, for example, like the full video, because there are videos on YouTube which all of a sudden claim to be copyright, you know, to have copyrights, of course. And it's kind of this gray zone where I don't really know, am I allowed to live stream it fully, or how is it? It is weird, man. I'm getting answers that are not clear. They kind of tell me, yeah, you shouldn't do it, but you can do it, and I don't know. It's tricky, man. It's tricky. So we gotta jump in. It's gonna be a longer one. I don't think I'm gonna split it into 2 parts. We'll see though, if it's too long at some point. Let's see. So I think it's gonna be packed with information, so we gotta pay attention. And if you're new here and watching the stream for the first time by accident, you just fell into this channel, man, I welcome you here. And if you want to support me, man, and it would mean a ton to me, just, you know, put a hit on that subscribe button, man. Leave a like, say hello. I very much appreciate every single one of you guys. So let's go. With that being said,
what do you call it when a retired Air Force general, one who once ran the most notorious lab in UFO history, vanishes from his house in broad daylight?
The general was involved with the Pentagon's most advanced aerospace research.
When the NASA material scientist behind a breakthrough rocket engine alloy disappears 30 feet from her friend on a hike.
She was right behind them, 30 feet behind them, and then she disappeared.
When one of MIT's top plasma physicists is gunned down outside his own front door.
This many top scientists getting killed or going missing in just under a year looks like a major red flag.
Who were the first people the Israelis killed in Iran when they went in? The first thing you do is kill your scientists.
It's the kind of thing that sounds like the Chinese science fiction book, The 3-Body Problem. A world where scientists don't just make discoveries, but become the front line of a war they don't even know they're in. A world where the future rests on some of the most important minds on Earth, and those minds start disappearing. Except here, the names and the people behind them are real.
CS went missing after taking lunch to her teenage daughter at a cafe in Taos Plaza.
Some of them were very important people, and we're going to look at it over the next
What we're looking at might not just be geopolitics in the dark or pressure coming from nation states, but from an unseen force shaping our timeline from somewhere above it, and a hidden struggle over who gets to control humanity's next leap. Or maybe none of these cases are connected.
It's really sensitive stuff, and I'm not a big believer in coincidences.
So tonight we're following the trail through missing scientists, murdered physicists, defense world gatekeepers, in this strange shadowland that forms wherever advanced knowledge becomes too dangerous to leave walking around. There's a state that researchers called hypnagogia, that threshold between waking and sleep where the brain is doing something genuinely unusual, the kind of thing that comes up in remote viewing accounts or other out-of-body experiences, and honestly, some of the most fascinating conversations I've had on this show. Since moving to Austin, sleep is something I've thought about a lot more, mostly because I'm not really doing it. That is, until recently. I used to sleep on whatever mattress I'd.
Well, Jesse Michels, there was a very, very smooth way of getting me with your advertisement, my bro.
Had for years.
I was like, what is he talking about, bro? Well made, bro, well made.
And it was clearly not helping me Felix, and it fixed all of his into the right match hold. A lot in these extremely waking up feeling like sleep is maybe the and it's the #1 thing that impacts the rest of your life. Helix has lifetime warranty. Herbs and sleep.com/Jesse.
Dude, this is very long, man. Hope they pay him a lot for that.
Jesse Michels wide, and 20% Jesse Michels, Michels with no A. The trail begins in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the shadow of Sandia Mountains. It's February 27th, 2026, a late Friday morning on Quail Run Court. Neil McCasland, a 68-year-old retired Air Force general, is at home in a quiet neighborhood at the edge of the Cibola National Forest. A repairman sees him at the house around 10 a.m. Then, about an hour later, around 11:10 a.m., his wife leaves for a medical appointment. At 12:04, barely an hour after that, she's back home. But her husband is gone. Left behind are his prescription glasses, his phone which had been switched off, and his smartwatch. All the things that would make him trackable in the 21st century. But what's missing is a red backpack, his wallet, and a .38 caliber revolver with its holster. Not the best combination. At 3:07, his wife Susan reports him missing, and the official police investigation begins. In a newly released 911 call, she tells the dispatcher he's been gone for about 3 hours.
I have some indication that he must have planned not to be found.
She said he changed his clothes and appears to be on foot since none of their cars or bikes were missing. She also tells dispatch that he's been dealing with some medical issues and that both of them were seeing a doctor for anxiety, lack of sleep, and short-term memory problems. In fact, it was the same doctor she had seen earlier that day. But Susan chalked the health issues up to garden variety things that you face in old age. She never thought that Neil would actually act in a way to harm himself.
Saying if his brain and body keep deteriorating, he didn't want to live like that. But it seemed to me that was just a, man, I hate how this is going kind of thing.
A comment like that would naturally raise concerns about self-harm. But whether that was a real risk or just a throwaway comment on an off day, we don't actually know. When the police asked about the weapons, she said that her husband had a gun safe with multiple pistols and rifles, but at that moment couldn't tell whether anything was actually missing. Although now we know that one of his .38 calibers was in fact gone. The next day, a silver alert goes out. This is the kind of statewide alert issued when authorities think a missing person might be disoriented or cognitively impaired. New Mexico state statute doesn't require any kind of formal diagnosis. Given what Susan had already told the police, that was enough to trigger it. But even with those reported issues, McCaslin still doesn't fit the profile of a man who just wandered into a canyon.
Investigators say he's still highly intelligent and capable.
Friends say that the week before he disappeared, McCaslin cycled 60 miles. He hiked those very foothills. He biked them. He knew every trail. This wasn't a man losing his bearings, but the kind of guy who could outski most millennials. This was also a town he knew by heart. McCaslin once commanded the Phillips Research Site at Kirtland, an Air Force base notorious for hosting advanced weapons research right nearby. He wasn't a stranger to this place. It was basically his backyard. His wife would also issue another statement, saying McCaslin had some risk, but not from dementia. He was not confused and disoriented. But a clear head didn't make him any easier to find. The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office said that they had surveillance footage from both ends of his street and still couldn't confirm his direction of travel. They made public appeals for doorbell cameras, dash cams, GoPros, anything.
If you have any information where McCaslin may be, contact BCSO's Missing Persons Unit.
Within the span of a week, the search expanded from the Sheriff's Office to the FBI's Albuquerque Field Office to the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, New Mexico State Search and Rescue, Albuquerque Mountain Rescue, horseback teams, 3 types of search dogs, drones, helicopters, and neighborhood canvassing. And despite living in an era with enough cameras to catch almost every delivery on the
You gotta use that AI program. How was it called? Umura or something? Umura? I don't know. That thing where they can track your heartbeat with AI. What they did to find just one soldier or something lately. I forgot what it was exactly, but I think it was something totally creepy in terms of technology, right? Man. Should have used this for him, man. It's
block in which he lived. No footage of him ever surfaced.
Sorry, even though it doesn't make sense, because I mean you can see the heartbeat but not who the person is. I'm sorry. Probably, I don't know. I don't know if they see the identity of that guy. I don't think so. So yeah, well, maybe it's useless.
Police accessed his electronic devices and searched his usual hiking spots, like the Elena Gallegos area into the Domingo Baca Canyon. But there was still no trace of him. After weeks, all they could find was a gray Air Force sweatshirt a mile east of his house. And even after testing it, they couldn't confirm it was McCaslin's. So we're talking about a regimented, physically active military vet who vanished from his house without leaving a single digital or physical fingerprint behind. That alone is strange, but it gets stranger once you understand who McCaslin actually was and the world he came out of.
General McCaslin, his disappearance was discussed. UAPs were discussed. So I don't think this story is going away, Jesse.
This was a man who spent his career deep in the black world of American defense. When you read his official Air Force biography, you realize he had access to things that the...
Hello, Miss A. I very much welcome you to the stream. I appreciate a lot that you're around. Thank you so much for saying hello. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good day so far.
The rest of us aren't even supposed to know exist. The foundation for that kind of clearance started when he graduated from the Air Force Academy, earned a PhD in astronautical engineering from MIT on a Hertz Foundation fellowship, and later studied at Harvard's Kennedy School. He went on to lead the Space-Based Laser Project Office, served as Vice Commander of the Space and Missile Systems Center, was the Materiel Wing Director at the Air Force Research Lab's Space Vehicles Directorate at Kirtland, and spent part of his career in the National Reconnaissance Office, the world of black, off-the-record satellites.
Give me 1 second, I gotta read something. The audio levels are quite low, just boost yourself a bit. Oh yeah, 1 sec. I really thought it was working out. Maybe I'm too far away from the microphone though, I'm not sure. Give me 1 second though, try to fix something. All right. I don't know. Maybe it is better now. I'm not really sure. I usually thought it's alright with the volume, but yeah, please let me know again if it's too quiet. But also Digital Gonet, thank you so much for saying hello, man. It still sounds the same. The levels for the video are perfect though. Super weird though. Okay. Well, but thank you so much for letting me know, man. I have no idea really why it's like that. Kind of strange. Well, I might find out later. But yeah, kind of weird stuff. Don't really see it around there. Alright, I think I try to find out later because I don't want to mess with all the audio settings right now, so I don't kill everything. But thank you for letting me know. Thank you for letting me know, bro. Appreciate that.
His career spanned everything from directed energy to space weapons to nuclear oversight. You probably get the point. This was a man who could out-credential most presidents and probably had more access than them too. And there are 2 jobs on his resume that matter more than the rest. From June 2009 to May 2011, McCaslin served as Director of Special Programs at the Pentagon in the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisitions, Technology, and Logistics. The title is a mouthful, but according to the official Pentagon training documentation, that office oversees acquisition special access programs. These programs are the ultimate category of secret black projects. In fact, they account for about 75 to 80% of all special access programs in the Department of War. These are the programs built.
It's quite a lot, man. 70 to 80%. Crazy. That's really a lot. 1 second.
To protect the crown jewels. Extremely sensitive research in the process of building something, like a next generation weapons system, or a craft that doesn't officially exist. This is where sensitive technology moves from theory to prototype to something that the military can actually fly. And if you're wondering where UFO reverse engineering—
I'm sorry for interrupting, but yeah, thank you so much, Miss A, for letting me know. Good that it sounds better. Maybe it's just me. Sometimes I'm talking too quiet though, but I gotta get the mic a bit closer towards me. Sorry, man. I'm sorry, guys, for interrupting all the time. It's bumpy, you know. The beginning is always bumpy. I'm so sorry, but it's like the truth is, why is there landfills? Kingdom of Darkness against God's creation. Well, here's a good question, bro. Not too easy to answer, right?
programs would possibly hide, this is the place. In the classified world, McCaslin's office was the motherlode. His Wikipedia page goes a step further, claiming that the role made him executive secretary of the Special Access Program Oversight Committee. the body that reviews and approves every single special access program in the Pentagon. But that's not even the most interesting job on his resume. From 2011 to 2013, McCaslin commanded the Air Force Research Lab, AFRL, at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, overseeing a $2.2 billion science and technology portfolio, one of the largest research operations in the entire Pentagon. Advanced material science, future weapons, and of course, exotic propulsion. And if you're familiar with UFO lore, you also know that Wright-Patterson isn't just famous for Project Blue Book. It's the alleged home of the Roswell crash debris.
I called Curtis LeMay and I said, General, I know we have a room at Wright-Patterson where you put all this secret stuff. Can I go in there? I've never heard him get mad, but he got madder than hell at me.
Depending on who you believe, this place houses some of the most exotic materials in the history of the US government. It's the place where they get studied, stored, reverse engineered, and obsessively hidden from public view. That's not even a conspiracy. This is the place during World War II where the US would reverse engineer advanced Nazi tech, and General Neil McCaslin ran the entire thing. But what really put him on the radar of UFO world is that his name showed up somewhere no one expected. In 2016, WikiLeaks published the hacked emails of John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman and one of the most powerful political operatives in Washington. Buried in that email dump is an email from Tom DeLonge to Podesta. The subject line, General McCaslin. DeLonge writes, "He mentioned he's a skeptic. He's not. I've been working with him for 4 months. I've just got done giving him a 4-hour presentation on the entire project a few weeks ago." He tells Podesta.
But yeah, Clifton Kelly, definitely. I know they pile up this stuff and they love it. They really love it for some reason, right? What to do though? Gotta deal with it.
That McCaslin just has to say that out loud because he is very, very aware, because he was the man in charge of all of this stuff. When Roswell crashed, they shipped it to the laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. General McCaslin was in charge of that exact laboratory up to a couple years ago. He not only knows what I'm trying to achieve, he helped assemble my advisory team. He's a very important man. DeLonge was after UFO disclosure for the American people. That's the whole point of To the Stars Academy. General McCaslin being involved in those early efforts is a big deal. Some people try to dismiss Tom DeLonge and say that he was never in touch with Neil McCaslin. After all, these leaked emails were never publicly confirmed. But even his wife Susan would come to acknowledge that.
Man, it's crazy to see all the same people reappearing again. Yeah, Tom DeLonge and stuff. And yeah, man. Los Alamos was that area where Bob Lazar was working on. Yeah, Bob Lazar, man, I love this guy. Super interesting guy. It's Joe Rogan episode, gotta say, I didn't like that one too much because he was too drunk. Dude, which even made him more authentic in a way, you know? Being way too drunk and like forgetting everything. It's like, dude, I don't know what I was even talking about. But I feel it, man. Being on Joe Rogan, I probably would get drunk as well. Maybe. I don't drink much though, so probably that's why I would be, but yeah, man.
McCaslin was caught up in the Russian hack and had less contact with Tom after the emails were released. Key word here, less, not zero. And she's implicitly admitting that they were in close contact previously. In fact, in that same email batch that leaked, a calendar notification shows that Susan herself.
One thing though, every time I see, I got the second for the mic. It was like every time I see Podesta, I'm getting the chills, man. This guy, crazy. Yeah. I mean, I think they went stoned. I'm not sure. I don't know if Bob Lazar is smoking, you know. I think he was only kind of drunk. Probably. They got wasted, I think. I don't know. To me, Bob doesn't seem to be the guy that is lighting up a spliff, you know? Hitting the blunt. I don't know about that. I love to do that on Joe Rogan, though.
Accepted a Google Calendar invite for something called a DeLong Podesta meeting. So at minimum, McCasland and his wife were in the room for conversations about UFO disclosure. We're not talking about a 4chan thread here. We're talking about Podesta's actual inbox. And as for Susan McCasland, she has a quite impressive background herself. She's a PhD astrophysicist, a colonel in the Air Force Reserve. She was a NASA astronaut semifinalist and had stints at both Boeing and Raytheon. She might even have her own clearance history. After McCasland disappeared, she told the press that he only held commonly held clearances since retirement. Maybe, but a man who spent his career this deep in the black world likely saw the full portfolio, and you don't really unsee that. Susan later made a statement on Facebook. She wrote, "Neil does not have any special knowledge about the ET bodies and debris from the Roswell crash stored at Wright Pat. Though at this point, with absolutely no sign of him, maybe the best hypothesis is that aliens beamed him up to the mothership. However, no sightings of a mothership hovering above the Sandia Mountains have been reported. Maybe this is just a woman holding it together with dark humor while the internet tears her life apart. But it's undeniable that the phrasing is odd. She doesn't say Roswell material doesn't exist at Wright-Patterson. She just says McCasland doesn't have any special knowledge about it. An event that, mind you, has been reported on ad nauseum in the open source world. So she might just be saying there's nothing that Neil McCasland knows about Roswell that you, the public, don't already know." Now look.
Yeah, well, going it. That sounds legit, man. That sounds legit. Probably should get the dose.
Look, any reasonable person should be hesitant to parse or speculate on the words of a grieving wife. And Susan and Neil deserve all of our thoughts and prayers. But also, to any reasonable person, these words almost feel like a cipher to decode, an invitation to speculate, just a little bit. And the statement ended up provoking just that.
Really though, that's interesting. You saw something in terms of energy weapons to make people feel like they were being abused. That's a weird thing. I mean, I can kind of imagine that. Well, not really, to be honest. No, not really. I'm sorry. I'm talking bullshit, but like, what? This sounds kind of weird, man. Sus guy. Epstein is kind of sus. A little sus. Yeah, crazy. Those direct energy weapons are also like topic on its own. I mean, you never see them, of course, which is so weird, you know, to grasp really what it is. Super weird, man. Yeah, I know what you mean though.
They spurred a lot of public speculation. If anything, the internet theorizing went into overdrive.
I do think that there are secrets that obviously will not be released because we have technologies that other nations don't, and just see the...
Dr. Avi Loeb. I was seeing this guy a lot when I, you know, was talking about like 3i Atlas, which already feels like it's so long ago. It's crazy. But 3i Atlas was very interesting. I'm still thinking it was something they didn't really want to tell us, you know. But anyways, yeah.
Superiority of our forces right now with Iran.
Had McCasland been quietly folded into some continuity of government program, or taken into protective custody in preparation for the war with Iran? Had he been taken by a foreign adversary that understood exactly how valuable he was? People in UFO world associate McCasland with the Majestic 12, an elite and top secret
Oh, 1 second, Miss A. Every time I see Podesta, I see the skippy images in my mind and think of Chester Bennington. Yeah, man. This Chester Bennington thing is also crazy. I always looked for, I mean, this documentary, I forgot the name, I think, but they were saying that, I mean, there wasn't a name really, right? But they were always claiming that Chester Bennington is basically working on this documentary with Avicii and stuff, and then you have this whole rabbit hole of Avicii and Bennington, and I think there was someone else. I forgot though. It is interesting, but I gotta say, it kind of smells like BS because you can really not find anything on this documentary. So just the documentary part, right? Not talking about the Podesta and that there's a link between them. Could be, of course, but you don't find really nothing about this documentary, which I would have loved to find, because if you look at the music video from Avicii, oh my god, I forgot the name of the music video. Didn't really listen to him, but there's this one music video that you will find if you look for this on Reddit, where it's basically all about kidnapping kids and stuff like this. You know, it's not something where you can interpret something. He didn't mean this. You know, it's like this guy definitely knows what's going on, and you're not making a music video like that if you not try to say something with it. So it is weird that he kind of died after doing that, you know. So yeah, man. Good. Gotta say the documentary on Netflix was interesting though. But I wish they would have included that part, but of course they're not gonna do that, so.
Presidential advisory panel dating back to Truman and Eisenhower that deals with the UFO topic. There are a lot of reasonable questions as to whether this Majestic 12 committee ever really existed, but perhaps the person deepest on the UFO truth, at least from the government perspective that we know about over the last 70 years, is a guy named Colonel John Alexander. And at one point he admitted that the Majestic 12 was basically just a cover for continuity of government programs. People in the military-industrial complex, where if the president and his direct cabinet were incapacitated, they would take over. To be honest, McCaslin sounds like he squarely fits that profile. Theories around his disappearance kept multiplying, and the timing of all of this didn't help either.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them.
In the summer of 2025, the mainstream Italian magazine La Espresso published an article from a confidential source. It claimed that President Trump was wresting control of special access programs away from the Pentagon and under the command of the White House, a move that supposedly sparked tensions between military leaders and some of the president's advisors. The article goes on to mention Project Preserve Destiny, a program involving communications with non-human intelligence housed under the National Security Agency, or NSA. The program involves some of the most bizarre protocols and has some of the most profound implications of anything we've ever covered on this show. Just listen to the experience of Air Force Sergeant Dan Sherman. This is
so interesting. I never heard of that, to be honest. Chris Cornell, oh yeah. When they both hung with a red feather. I don't really know about that. Could be, but then you know more than me, to be honest. And about Robin Williams too, then you still definitely know more about me. Not more about me. You know more than me. Don't know about that, but that's interesting. Thank you for sharing.
What he was told the program was about.
The genesis of it was in 1947. We came in contact with an alien species. And in 1960, they started a project. It was called Project Preserve Destiny. And it was designed to genetically manage fetuses, human fetuses, so that they would have the heightened ability to do this particular thing that I was going to school for. My mother was one of the selected targets, or whatever you want to call it.
And on the night of February 19th, 2026, Trump announced on Truth Social that he was directing the Pentagon and other agencies to begin identifying and releasing government files related to aliens and the UAP phenomena. Trump is always shooting from the hip.
Let's see what they're gonna make of it though. I don't trust him. We will see, man. If it's a nothing burger or if there's more to come.
You don't really get the sense that that post was planned. And you have to think, if a UFO legacy program does in fact exist, they were thinking deeply about their most important personnel. 8 days after that announcement, McCaslin vanished from his neighborhood. I'm not going to pretend I know what this means, and I'm not saying that Trump's announcement is the reason he disappeared, but the timing is a data point. There could be a few reasons why that timing is important.
Neil McCaslin, I mean, you have to wonder the timing. President Trump saying, I'm going to release these.
Imagine, as I said, they're kind of protected though. I mean, you could think about this whole thing from the other side, right? In terms of you're basically announcing that disclosure is coming, let's say, that's the case. So you gotta protect those scientists. But, I mean, that's the thing. I don't want to say, I mean, when they die, there are people that know them, and I think they probably have seen him dead or something. That's the question. Did the people really see them dead? Do they really 100% know that they are dead? This is just something I have no idea if that's the case. And I really don't try to, disrespect the deaths and stuff. I'm just trying to think, like, could that be a thing? Because in the end, if it's just coming from media, till someone sees him and his relatives and friends, so like people really know, we don't really know, right? Like yeah, man, I don't know. It could be also some kind of like witness protection program going on or something. But maybe I'm just tripping. Maybe I'm just tripping balls. I don't know.
Files, and then 6 days later, Neil McCaslin goes missing.
If McCaslin was involved in these programs and felt he could be implicated in any way, the release of these UFO files could have been a pressure point, maybe enough to make him crack and disappear into the wilderness. This also could have explained the deep anxiety leading up to that moment. Maybe the intense hiking and biking was to relieve stress. What many online are saying is the most simple explanation for McCaslin's disappearance is that he walked into the Sandia foothills with his gun, and that whatever was in his head after a lifetime near the most secretive programs in the country simply became too much to carry, a burden too great to bear. The fact that he changed his clothes before leaving, making it harder to identify what he was wearing, adds to that theory. But after weeks of searching terrain that experienced teams covered repeatedly, they haven't found a body. So the opposite could also be true. This was a man who was already involved with early disclosure efforts. McCaslin wasn't hiding from transparency. If anything, he was working toward it. And that makes him quite dangerous and a liability to the people who don't want disclosure. To them, this is the last person you'd ever want to put on the witness stand. He was a man who saw behind the curtain and knew exactly what was hanging there. Harvard lawyer and civil rights activist Danny Sheehan, the constitutional lawyer behind the Pentagon Papers, recently went on the Third Eye Drops podcast with my buddy Michael Phillip and described what he calls the association.
There has arisen an insurgency group that have occupied extremely high positions in the Defense Department, inside the Central Intelligence Agency, inside some of the private aerospace corporations, and inside the military services. Okay, and I happen to know who they are.
One sec. Yeah, man, it's the science is very much a three-body problem. Like, that's definitely true. It was a great series, gotta say. I really enjoyed that one. I feel like I always forgot everything that happened already. I could already. Oh no, it was this Chinese. Yeah. They were sending out the signal and stuff. It was very nice, very interesting, and definitely worldwide. And that's the question I'm having. Why now, though? Do you know what I mean? It's like this was happening for a long time, since a long time. So why do they care about those things now? Like before, nobody cared really, but all of a sudden, they seem to care. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit, yeah. We have to be careful. We never really know what is going on. But yeah, anyways, definitely interesting.
Okay, and what they've done is they've formed an association, and they're working to try to drag the program back into the government.
This is a covert circle of 24 retired high-ranking officials from the DoD, CIA, and private aerospace, a secret brain trust quietly working to drag classified UAP programs back into the light of government oversight and towards transparency. They're all retired, and they all took their Rolodexes and credibility with them. So did McCasland have his own little black book? Was he one of those 24? We don't actually know, but he does fit the profile. Retired, credentialed, connected, and sympathetic to disclosure.
And I've got their names too here.
Wow.
Right here.
Are those names private, or can those names
They're not
be
public at all.
Okay.
They're not public at all, but there's 24 of them.
After McCasland hung up his uniform in 2013, his wife described him as a man winding down, hiking the foothills, enjoying a quiet life in the desert. Technically, that's all true.
Talbot power for 24 hours. End of day comes our shower.
But that's not the full story. In fact, after leaving his post in government, he's listed as a founder of DBE Consulting, a New Mexico national security consulting firm tied to James Tegnalia, the former deputy director of DARPA and the director of the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. This agency, also known as DTRA for short, is the Pentagon's agency for countering weapons of mass destruction. But it also might have a thing or two to do with UFOs.
The person in charge of collecting all of the information from DTRA dealing with extraterrestrials and, as he put it, quote unquote, little green men, happened to sit next to me at my computer terminal and began pulling all of the documents on my system and the systems in our skiff.
This consulting firm wasn't just two old colleagues starting a fishing club. It represents two aerospace graybeards with connections way too deep to ever really walk away, advising clients across the Pentagon and Department of Energy. Make of that what you will. In 2019, he joined the board of trustees at Riverside Research, a nonprofit with hundreds of millions of dollars in defense and intelligence work on the books. He was also the director of technology at ATA, Applied Technology Associates.
Man, this is so creepy, all this AI camera technology that just really sees what you're doing. It's crazy. I really would love to know how far we really are with that and what we just don't know. You know what I mean? It's probably much worse than we all think, but...
One of those aerospace firms with a deliberately vague name, working in sensitive areas in space systems and directed energy. That doesn't sound like a quiet retirement to me, but that's exactly the kind of person who makes a very specific set of people very nervous. A potential whistleblower, operating in the dangerous margin between intelligence agencies and private contractors. Two groups with their own distinct methods of making problems disappear. And if you're in the business of making problems disappear, you make sure you give the public a story they can wrap their heads around. This is the Fixer Handbook 101, which brings us back to a detail that doesn't get enough attention. Just because McCasland's gun is missing doesn't mean he was the one who took it. Think about it. If you wanted to stage someone's disappearance to read like a probable suicide, what would you take? You'd take a gun. Not their phone or smartwatch. You'd leave everything trackable with a GPS chip, but take the one item with an obvious narrative attached to it. Ultimately, who knows what happened to McCasland? What we do know is that a man who knew more about America's most classified science programs than about 99.9999% of our population vanished from his house without tripping a single camera. And as of today, despite 700 homeowners canvassed, search parties, drones, helicopters, FLIR sweeps, K9 units, and the FBI, we have next to nothing. No confirmed sightings, no scent trail. He's just gone, like a ghost. For one of the most intensive searches in recent New Mexico history, the absence of evidence is bizarre. But it might be a data point unto itself that points to someone who's sophisticated, who knows how to work the blind spots. And McCasland isn't the first to vanish. Congressman from Tennessee, Tim Burchett, has been trying to get answers himself, but claims that some of our intelligence agencies are actively stonewalling his attempts to investigate.
Well, what a surprise. What a surprise is that. How does that come? This is literally how it is, man. Pretty sad. I mean, I'm really hoping everybody is just tripping out as he's somewhere with all the other guys and being on a safe place. That's really what I'm hoping. This is, you know, I hope it is something like that, man. I really don't want to think about that they all just died or got killed, you know. And it's, man, we're living in a messed up world, guys.
Why our top researchers are disappearing at such a high rate. He told the Daily Mail that the numbers seem very high in these certain areas of research. I think we'd better be paying attention, and I don't think we should trust our government.
I had a t-shirt on my merchantforcongress.com website that said more people believe in UFOs than believe in Congress, and it sold out. So, I mean, there's something going on out there, brother.
But while Burchett was looking for answers in Washington, the internet was doing its own digging. After his story broke, an online manhunt zeroed in on a potential smoking gun, an X account called TMB Spaceships. The account posts about plasma propulsion and spacecraft systems.
I think I've seen the video actually from Polarity where he was talking about that. And I think he was saying that this was found out by one of his community people from Polarity or something. So shout out to that guy. Great research, whoever that really found out about it. Like, all those links are very interesting, man. Seen this X account, yeah.
But hasn't posted since February 27th, the day McCaslin disappeared. I looked into it. Its account claims that in 1991, its owner was attending the University of Texas as a U.S. Air Force butter bar electrical engineer, which is slang for a newly commissioned second lieutenant. Except McCaslin reached second lieutenant on May 30th, 1979, and by April 1991, he had reached lieutenant colonel. His official Air Force biography also puts him in Los Angeles from 1988 to 1992, not Texas. The account also mentions a brother-in-law who spent 40 years in navigation and started working for Texas Instruments in the 1950s. But the only McCaslin brother-in-law we could actually verify doesn't fit that profile. Based on these posts, the user behind the account doesn't appear to be McCaslin. While the internet was busy trying to unmask this X account, the real story was hiding in plain sight. Today's episode is sponsored by Incogni, something that comes up a lot when I talk to UFO whistleblowers, physicists, and
Jesse, relax with your sponsors. Gotta appreciate the sponsors, though.
addresses, family members' names, all collected without your knowledge and sold to anyone. Not just bury the feature from a random people finder site. You paste the link, take your. When you dig into the $2.2 billion science and technology portfolio McCaslin oversaw at the Air Force Research Lab, you'll find a thread that leads somewhere specific, and that thread is metal, a superalloy of metal, co-invented by another missing scientist, Monica Jacinto Reza. Monica worked in one of the most brutal corners of propulsion science.
I remember her, man. As I said, it's so sad.
An age-old limitation had kept advanced rocket propulsion pinned down by the same ugly problem. If you want to get heavy satellites into orbit, you need a high-pressure, oxygen-rich environment. The metallic alloys strong enough to hold the engine together in these situations would go up in flames. And the alloys that didn't catch on fire were too weak to trust with the guts of an engine. So the US military needed to find a sweet spot, but nobody could find one. So we were forced to rely on the Russian RD-180 engine for sensitive national security space launches. This meant that during the Cold War, we were literally stuck buying defense hardware for the most sensitive missions from our biggest geopolitical rival. The stalemate finally shattered in the 1990s thanks to the hard work of Dallas Hardwick and Monica Reza at the Rockwell Science Center. They engineered a nickel-based alloy tough enough to survive the crushing pressure, but stable enough to not go up in flames or fracture in an oxygen-rich hellscape. They named this supermetal Mondaloy. The first three letters of each of their names fused into one. By 1999, the Air Force Research Laboratory, or AFRL, began co-funding their work. The same Air Force Research Laboratory that was later headed up by Neil McCaslin. Monica told Space News that over the next 2 decades, and after multiple Air Force and NASA contracts, The metal she created was eventually scaled into a family of superalloys, Mondoloy 100 and 200, each engineered for different temperature and pressure conditions. This was the vital national security hardware that would allow us to stop relying on Russia. Fast forward, and Mondoloy ends up in kerosene-fueled AR-1 engines, Rocketdyne's US-built replacement for the Russian RD-180. Then, in May of 2011, none other than Neil McCaslin came to Wright-Patterson as the new commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory while the Mondoloy program was still active. And Monica's co-inventor, Dallas Hardwick.
What a coincidence, man.
Who had been at Wright-Patterson since the year 2000, was right there alongside him, embedded in the lab's materials directorate until her retirement in 2012. This was the exact place where Mondoloy 200 was co-developed. In fact, a National Academies report shows the Mondoloy partnership was shared between the Air Force Research Laboratory and Monica's team at Pratt & Whitney Rocketdyne, which later became Aerojet Rocketdyne. The Air Force knew that mastering materials like Mondoloy could shape the future, and at Wright-Patterson, cutting-edge science has long been—
Man, this is huge. Damn. That place is big, man. That place is pretty big.
Rumored to blur into the unexplained. But there's a long and much weirder history.
Dude, one question, guys. You gotta be honest with me. The only thing, I mean, I love the videos from Jesse Michels. The only thing I'm kind of, and this is probably again just me always trying to see conspiracy in everything, is that he's working for Peter Thiel, right? Peter Thiel. Man, this guy. And he's basically, you know, kind of managing the money from, I think, a part of his family or something, like the Thiel family, whatever, managing something there. I forgot what it exactly was. Give me one sec. Oh, well, I don't know if he's working anymore, but he's been working exactly as an investor at Thiel Capital, which is basically Peter Thiel's capital, right? So this was only one thing that I find kind of, I just don't like it. Probably I just don't like it. I don't want to, you know, say that he's a bad guy or anything, or that he's doing something bad. It's just that, you know, guys, we're living in this world where it's all about following the money pretty much. And man, Peter Thiel is one such guy. And this is just why I'm thinking, like, seeing all these very successful guys in the UFO community, or whatever you want to call it, community, UAP, propulsion, energy systems, it's, you gotta be careful who people are, right? So I'm just wondering if there's like a weird connection, or if it's just random that he was working for Thiel Capital. Man, it's sad that we have to think that way. It's pretty sad. But besides that, I really love the videos. I like it.
Of exotic metallurgy coming out of Wright-Patterson. And this is where the story goes somewhere familiar. Some researchers connect Mondoloy to a specific lineage of exotic metal that goes all the way back to the alleged Roswell crash of 1947. In an interview with journalist Bob Pratt, Jesse Michels Jr., the Army Air Force intelligence officer at the Roswell crash site, described some of the debris as thin and foil-like, and when he held a lighter to it, it didn't burn. The theory goes that whatever was recovered at Roswell eventually became a classified R&D seed program at Wright-Patterson's Air Force Research Lab, and over decades, that seed inspired families of advanced alloys designed to mimic or exploit the same impossible properties: shape recovery, extreme strength to weight ratios, burn resistance. Not chemical clones of the Roswell metal, but descendants of the same research tree. You have to admit.
Yeah, Miss A. Definitely, that's what I'm saying. It's, I feel you. so much on this one. Like, we're all connected in a way to something that where we could say it's kind of sus. Like, I'm using X. It's an AI, you know. Why do you use AI? It's kind of sus. You support the AI movement. You want transhumanism. You know, you can interpret a lot of stuff. So maybe he was just working there as an investor, and he got very lucky to work for him. Probably made a hell of money. So, you know, that's what I mean. If it's just that, I hope it is the case. But yeah, man, starting to be paranoid these days. You know, so much shit'll play in the backgrounds, man. We never know. But yeah, man, great videos, great research, great guests. Sometimes some very weird guests, man, that are hella sus. Definitely just placed there as a placeholder, disinformation stuff going on. But I mean, it's also for the entertainment, right? So gotta give credits to him.
It's a bit bizarre that Wright-Patterson had a contract with Battelle Memorial Institute in 1949 studying nickel-titanium alloys, long before the material became associated with memory metal.
Damn. I've never seen that one.
Memory metal extremely similar to what Jesse Michels described just 2 years after he reportedly handled it. Then fast forward to the 1960s at the Naval Ordnance Laboratory, and the world was introduced to nitinol, an alloy that remembers its shape. It was seen as a breakthrough in modern metallurgy, but for anyone steeped in Roswell lore, it looked eerily familiar. Now, Mondaloy lives in a very different metallurgical neighborhood. Nitinol is about 45% titanium, while Mondaloy has only small amounts of titanium, about 1 to 4%. And if you look at the actual science behind Mondaloy, the exotic metal theory hits a wall. Monica's patents for Mondaloy mentions Haynes 214 and Monal alloy K500. So is Monica's super alloy some kind of Roswell Starship derivative? Maybe not. But who's to say these exotic metal lineages didn't have a little outside inspiration along the way? You have to admit, the optics are bizarre. A scientist co-invents a superalloy inside the same research portfolio McCasland oversaw, and now they've both vanished? If you look at the world they came out of, intelligence agencies have warned for decades that foreign agents target America's space and defense world. McCasland was practically a walking hard drive, not for a single piece of knowledge, but for the vault in his head. The same way Monica's value wasn't just Mondaloy, it was the person behind it. A mind capable of solving one of the toughest problems in American rocketry is capable of solving the next one too. So let's go back to June 22nd, 2025, when the woman who taught us how to tame fire vanished.
The search is on for a 60-year-old woman missing in the Angeles National Forest. Monica Reza was last seen near Mount Waterman yesterday at about 9 a.m.
The LA County Sheriff Department's Crescenta Valley Station and Montrose Search and Rescue have been working around the clock on this one.
Search and rescue scoured the area for 8 days by land and by air, but found nothing other than Monica's beanie, which photographs from the day show was tucked into the hip belt of her pack. The visor was recovered about 400 yards off the trail the day after her disappearance. When no other evidence surfaced, as is protocol, the synthetic aperture radar mission was concluded, and the investigation was handed off to the Homicide Bureau, the Missing Persons Unit. But Monica's community had already mobilized, organizing volunteer groups, including expert mountain rescue teams, who began searching the areas outside the search and rescue perimeter, and would continue to search by land and by drone when the official search and rescue mission was called off.
Man, I gotta say, and I gotta give respect to the deep research, man, because I usually like to do videos about things like that too, but I felt like you could do like one video of one guy, and even that is a lot of research for a one-man army as I am. It is a lot of work. So all of this research, man, that's a ton of work. So probably as a team doing that with him, which is nice because there's so many things you have to connect and editing everything out. You know, the whole transcript and like it's hella work. So very, very nice that we have the possibility to see all of the info being brought together, you know, being connected. I like that. Good times we're living in. There we go.
Hikers have been known to survive for 2 to 3 weeks in the wilderness at times, but the weeks wore on, and the volunteer exhibitions kept going out every few days. Hope of rescue dimmed, but the goal was to at least recover Monica's body. The organizers begged for volunteers to keep deploying until Monica's birthday in December, 6 whole months after her disappearance. The weeks turned into months, and still no sign of Monica. She had vanished without a trace. That fateful June morning, Monica was well equipped with a backpack, hiking boots, hiking pants, and plenty of water. It's still unclear if she had her cell phone on her. Some theorized she could have been attacked by a mountain lion or bear, but no dens were found in the area. No remains. The San Gabriels are mountain lion country. The terrain is extremely rugged. There are many giant boulders and cave-like shelters that could obscure Monica from the view of rescuers. Still, multiple civilian searchers who descended the ravine nearest to Monica's last reported location described the terrain as steep, but not steep enough to be fatal if someone fell. Something about her disappearance feels off. If someone had wanted to kidnap Monica, it's conceivable they could have intercepted her on the trail and led her to a car parked along a different section of the highway. We may never know if her disappearance was just a tragic twist of fate, a crime of opportunity, or something much more nefarious. Beyond her invention of the Mondaloy, the heat-resistant coating for interiors of rockets and satellites that allow for entry and re-entry into our atmosphere, most importantly, we want to honor Monica's life. The outpouring of prayer, support, and resources from her family, friends, and colleagues demonstrates how deeply she is and will continue to be missed. The last entry on the volunteer Facebook group for Monica's search and rescue efforts was on November 18th, 2025. 150 days after her disappearance, the group was still planning a recovery expedition that week. As disturbing as Monica's disappearance is, 4 days later, another woman disappeared. Back in the day, I used to chug coffee like I was prepping for a quantum jump.
I feel you, brother. I feel you on that one so bad, because I'm doing that. which is just too good, because I'm sweating sometimes. Coffee makes you sweat, man. But it's so good, man. I like it. Feel your heart racing, you know. So I'm sorry that I'm skipping your advertisement, your well-made advertisement, Jesse. Gotta give me some time. All right.
Please show your support and let them know we sent you.
It's been nearly a month since anyone has seen Melissa Casillas. Her stepdaughter says a doorbell camera showed Casillas walking a couple miles away with a backpack, and she was last seen walking on a highway in Taos County about a month ago. It was June 26th. A family friend even saw her walking along the highway.
Man. Back again at Los Alamos. Man, it's, you know, seeing all those places again and again, and then having people vanishing and disappearing again and again. It's all weird, right?
He turned around to see if she needed help, but then all he saw was a blue truck driving by. No Casillas. Her family thinks she got into that truck. Her family says her personal belongings are all still at home, including her phone, which had been factory reset.
This time, an hour from Los Alamos National Laboratory in Ranchos de Teos. Melissa Casillas is a 53-year-old administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory, one of the most secretive research sites on Earth, and of course the original home to the Manhattan Project, where the first atomic bomb was developed under Oppenheimer. On the morning of June 26, 2025, around 6:15 a.m., Melissa dropped her husband Mark off at the campus. He worked at the lab as a superintendent and said he watched Melissa swipe her badge at the gate. But instead of heading to work, Melissa drove an hour back home, telling her daughter Sierra she'd forgotten her badge and was going to work from home instead. Sierra didn't think anything of it and left for her own job. Around 12:30, Melissa dropped off lunch for her daughter at her work. Everything seemed normal, but around 1:30, Mark got a call from Melissa's boss. She never showed up at work. He texted Sierra, who sent a text to her mom, and it was quickly marked as read. But by 2:30, her second text wouldn't deliver at all. Around 2:15, doorbell cameras caught Melissa walking along State Road 518 in a turquoise shirt, blue jeans, and a maroon sweatshirt around her waist, heading in the direction of Carson National Forest, about 3 miles from her house. Back at the house, her daughter came home to a locked door and Melissa's car in the driveway. Inside, she found her mom's purse, wallet, keys, and both her work and personal phones. When she picked one of the phones up, she realized it had been factory reset. A check she was supposed to cash was sitting there too, next to a few dollar bills.
It's kind of sus, right?
Her daughter searched through her things and realized she might have taken a toothbrush, a hair iron, and other personal items. A witness later reported that around the same time Melissa was seen on surveillance footage, they saw a blue Dodge truck following her. They also said she was walking like she was hurt or intoxicated. The family later disputed it, saying that the witness described a woman in a white shirt, not turquoise, which was what Melissa was wearing. Either way, Melissa was gone. When her family, Sierra and Mark, compared notes, the stories didn't match up. Melissa told her daughter she came home because she forgot her badge, but Mark said he watched her swipe in with it. Either one of them was wrong, or Melissa wasn't telling the truth. After going through her things, Sierra realized that her mother was under enormous pressure. On an interview with Dateline, she said that there was a lot crumbling down on her that we didn't know about. Melissa was also feeling financial stress. Her husband said that after their daughter Sierra was in a bad car accident, there was supposed to be a settlement, but it fell through. Her 2022 GoFundMe mentions that the accident left her family with medical costs most could never fathom. As Sierra and her father started piecing things together, they began suspecting Melissa might have left on her own. And when you look at the items she took, like a toothbrush and hair straightener, it tells us a few things. Abductees don't usually take their hair straighteners, and a suicidal person doesn't care about frizzy hair. This behavior describes someone who might be expecting to go somewhere with running electricity, a mirror, and maybe even someone to see. The factory reset phones left at home are another clue. If she had left voluntarily, she might have wanted to wipe her message history and make herself harder to track down. The Los Alamos connection, of course, put Melissa on everyone's radar. And even though administrative roles can overlap with classified material, we don't know what her position entailed. And when you add in the confusion about the badge, the factory reset phones, the personal items she took, and the financial stress, this starts to look like someone who made a decision to disappear on her own terms. Maybe she saw something she wasn't supposed to at the lab, and her phone and hair appliance were a neat cover story for somebody who didn't want her to speak out. Whatever happened, Melissa's still missing, and her family is still looking.
Man, I know I'm coming back to the same thing, but it's like, why would they be killed right now? Like, why are they doing something? What were they doing? Were they like close to say something, which I don't really think they would. You know, I think they didn't plan together all of a sudden talk about certain things, and then someone else like, oh no, he wants to talk about that, she wants to talk about that, I'm gonna kill him, you know? What if they all are gone for being protected? Like, you're inside of this deep state, you know, with all the bad guys, and then there's this little group which is trying to do a good thing, so you have to protect them really bad. If it's getting to a point where you maybe actually are planning on releasing something that is big, you know, maybe they just try to protect people. Man, it's really what I hope it is, man.
Her parents have set up a GoFundMe offering a $5,000 reward for any information that brings her home. But not every disappearance near a sensitive facility is foul play. The evidence looks like it points somewhere more tragic and personal than a sinister conspiracy. We're including her because she deserves to be found, but we're not including her as evidence of something darker. For that, we have to look 700 miles west at what was happening under the stars just outside Los Angeles.
A man shot and killed 3 days ago at his...
That was out of tune, bro. What happened there? Was that the video?
A man shot and killed 3 days...
Happening under the stars just outside Los Angeles.
Yeah.
A man shot and killed...
Maybe a small editing mistake that happens.
Killed 3 days ago at his home in the Antelope Valley community of Llano has been identified as Carl Grillmayer. He was a Caltech scientist. Colleagues say the 67-year-old made groundbreaking discoveries in astronomy and will be greatly missed.
Q territory. Well, people could say it is Q. I don't know, man. It's so hard. At some point, you always end up in thoughts. I mean, as soon as you kind of think that there's someone, some people, whatever, that are doing something good, which for me is just a reasonable thing. Because if there's a bad thing, they have to be good guys. But I don't want to put a label on them, right? So that's where I'm just... But imagine there is a group of people that is actually trying to do something good. Imagine that would be the case. But it's just a mind, you know, it's just playing in my mind as an imagination thing. Maybe I'm totally wrong, though, in terms of that it's not this. But I don't know if it's that. It could be also the other thing. It's just that my intuition is telling me something. That it is still kind of weird why people are talking about it now. That's the only... Because it's happening since a long time, but we will find out, I guess. I'll leave all the possibilities open, man.
On February 16th, 2026, about 30 miles northeast of Waterman Mountain, where Monica Reza disappeared, another colleague from Caltech and JPL would meet an equally tragic and suspicious end. The great astronomer, Carl Grillmayer.
Yeah, man.
In the small unincorporated community of Llano, tucked away near the Los Angeles and San Bernardino County line, a world-class astronomer had built his own observatory on a remote stretch of land. He chose to set up shop in the secluded Antelope Valley, 20 miles east of Palmdale, precisely because of how thinly populated it was. Carl Grillmayer wanted the darkest night skies possible with the least amount of light pollution. Carl Johan Grillmayer, born in Calgary, Alberta in 1959, dedicated his life to studying galactic astronomy and distant planets. His work focused on mapping the structure of the Milky Way, identifying stellar streams, remnants of smaller galaxies, or clusters torn apart by gravitational forces. These incredibly faint, stretched out ribbons of stars drift through our Milky Way and tell the story of what was left behind. Modern science sometimes suffers from hyper-specialization, but Carl Grillmayer did not. Within astrophysics, he was a Renaissance man, a polymath with research interests at every scale, from the research of our own solar system to giant galaxy clusters to the search for extraterrestrial life. Grillmayer discovered the Lethe Stream, a vast river of stars yanked into the Milky Way from nearby globular clusters. Using the Sloan Digital Survey, or SDSS, Grillmayer tracked subtle disturbances in the paths of these stellar streams, leading to key insights into dark matter, a mysterious missing mass which forms a cosmic glue that holds galaxies and their clusters together. Stars, galaxies, planets, and matter as we know it are only 5% of the observable universe. Think of them as the foam on an incoming wave crashing on the beach. Dark matter forms much of the rest of the ocean. A vast halo of dark matter envelops the Milky Way. Its immense gravity would disturb the path of incoming stellar streams by tugging on them and changing their paths. And by tracking these changes, Grillmayer was able to make profound insights into one of the universe's biggest mysteries. What is most of it made out of? Through his comprehensive study of stellar streams, Grillmayer helped reshape our understanding of how galaxies evolve, and his work with exoplanets was arguably even more profound. Using the Spitzer Space Telescope, Grillmayer did pioneering work studying the atmospheres of exoplanets, breaking down light passing through distant worlds to search for molecular fingerprints that tell us what they're made of. In 2007, Grillmayer was part of the team that discovered the first ever instance of water vapor in an exoplanet's atmosphere. Today, the techniques he pioneered are proving pivotal in the scientific search for alien life, as the same capabilities can now probe the atmospheres of habitable planets for biosignatures, footprints of living ecology altering the planet's chemical balance. His colleague at Caltech, Sergio Fajardo Acosta, described his approach to exoplanets and galactic structures as truly detective work.
Carl Grimmer is was an extremely renowned scientist, and I would say he still is, because his legacy will keep on.
And it becomes the consensus reality in conventional astronomy that we're not alone. We'll owe a lot of that paradigm-shattering insight to Dr. Grillmer's groundwork. But Grillmer also studied celestial bodies much closer to home. He worked closely with NEOWISE, an instrument which serves as planetary defense. You heard me right. NEOWISE could be the first line of defense against humans going the way of the dinosaurs. So Grillmer had as front line a view as you can get when it came to the potential for Earth's extinction. He's published extensively, and his research has earned him a number of accolades, including NASA's Exceptional Scientific Achievement Medal in 2011. Recently, Grillmer had begun work on a new project, testing new instrumentation at Caltech's Palomar Observatory to monitor for meteor impacts on the moon's surface during an upcoming lunar eclipse. Another colleague, collaborator, and lead scientist, Joe Massiero, said it is a really exciting project, and I know Carl was looking forward to seeing what we could learn about the near-space environment from that. It made perfect sense that someone so passionate about the night skies would build a home outfitted with his own observatory. And what makes no sense is why a neighbor would seemingly stalk him on his property in December and return to kill him in February. On December 20th, 2025, according to sheriff officials and court records, Carl Grillmer called the police to report someone trespassing on his sprawling lot in Llano. Deputies
man, that's so sad, man.
Were dispatched, and when they arrived, they found 29-year-old Llano resident Freddie Snyder wandering the rugged landscape nearby, carrying a loaded, unregistered rifle. Snyder claimed he was just headed to the post office and carried the weapon for self-defense against wild animals. But the LA Times uncovered Snyder's property records, indicating the post office was in the opposite direction of his and Grillmer's home. The sheriffs arrested Snyder on a felony weapons charge and booked him at the Palmdale Station Jail, where he was accused of attempting to escape before his court appearance. When Snyder showed up at court, the judge told him to complete a gun safety course, citing his lack of past criminal record and an unnecessary prosecutions law as the reason for his leniency. Snyder was released from jail on his own recognizance. Things calmed in the new year, at least temporarily, until another 911 call came in on February 16th. At 6:10 a.m., deputies responded to a 911 call for assault with a deadly weapon. Carl Grillmer had been shot on his porch. Paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. While the deputies responded to the 911 call at the Grillmer residence, another call came in. A carjacking had occurred just down the road. Freddie Snyder was arrested for the carjacking and was subsequently linked to Grillmer's shooting. Snyder, the man who was released from custody for lacking a criminal record, was now charged with several felonies, including burglary, carjacking, and murder. This time, his bail was set at just above $3 million. Investigators have yet to uncover a motive, and they've found no evidence that Snyder and Grillmer were acquainted. No.
Dude. I'm wondering who visited him and told him, hey bro, you better go over to that guy and, you know, do what we want you to do. Otherwise, it's not gonna be a good day for you. Oh man, it's just like a really bad movie. Or maybe, probably a really good movie, I'm sorry. But this is... what a bummer, man.
No one has an explanation for why this man suddenly went on a crime spree that began and ended with Carl Grillmer. And Freddie Snyder's arraignment was postponed from March 26th to April 29th, so it may take many months to uncover just what happened here. Could Grillmer have stumbled upon something he wasn't supposed to? Was Snyder being controlled by darker forces? Was he just a patsy or an extension of something deeper? Recently, Dr. Grillmare had been working on the revolutionary Vera Rubin Observatory, an observatory which saw its first light mere months before his untimely death. The Vera Rubin Observatory is one of the largest scale surveys of the sky ever undertaken. It produces over 1,000 images every night, covering the entire southern hemisphere from horizon to horizon, and it promises to revolutionize the search for interstellar objects. Currently, we've only ever detected 3 objects confirmed to be entering the solar system from beyond, but astronomers estimate Vera Rubin will discover 50 by the time its run is over. It will show us our own solar system in unprecedented detail. On its first active night, it revealed over 2,000 previously undiscovered asteroids. Here's where things take an interesting, albeit very speculative, turn. In 2017, we discovered Oumuamua, the first ever interstellar object to visit our solar system.
You all remember Oumuamua? Yeah, man, good times. Oumuamua, that was funny. That was pretty interesting back then. I can remember that thing quite good, yeah. Good times.
It had some very strange properties, especially the way it accelerated without any visible cometary tail, leading past American alchemy guest and Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb to speculate that it may be a spacecraft or
just like with 3A Atlas, same thing, man.
Or alien artifact.
It was given the name Oumuamua because it means in the Hawaiian language a scout, a messenger from far away.
Yeah.
All the proposals that were put on the table to explain the anomalies of Oumuamua invoked a rock of a type that we've never seen before.
With Rubin now...
Damn, he's just chilling in his suit. It's like, what? Body temperature-wise, he must be, you know, quite on there. It's like, look hella cold, man. Jesse's sitting there with his gloves and stuff. Avi Loeb just like, it's not too bad, you know.
Online, we're poised to discover many more Oumuamuas, which is why Vera Rubin is now motivating mainstream SETI researchers to start scanning our solar system for more anomalies which could be alien spacecraft or probes. If our solar system is in fact filled in extraterrestrial spacecrafts and artifacts from visiting civilizations, Rubin is perfectly poised to pick them up. But there's also a big limitation. All of Rubin's imagery has to be approved by the Pentagon. This is not a
Wah, 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 wah. No. What? That's bad, man. Oh my god. I wonder if there's a way to get like your own copy out of that. Right? Like you have all those images and then you look and see something that is very nice to see. And you're like, what should I do with that? How can I get that thing out of the system onto a hard drive or something? Oh man. Please let there be a hard drive or something where there's some nice stuff on there. It would be amazing.
Conspiracy theory. It's a publicly known fact, as reported in this article from The Atlantic. Every image gets reviewed by the intelligence agencies before the scientific community is allowed to see it. As The Atlantic article reports, a government agency would chip in $5 million for the construction of a dedicated network for moving sensitive data. Each time the telescope were to take one of its 30-second tile images of the sky, the file would be immediately encrypted, without anyone looking at it first, and then sent to a secure facility in California. Next, an automated system would compare the image with previous images of the same tile. It would cut out small postage stamp pictures of any new object it finds, be they asteroids, exploding stars, or spy satellite. It would filter out the postage stamps that might depict secret US assets, and 1 minute later, send all the rest, together with their coordinates, to an alert service available to astronomers worldwide. This level of intense intelligence community oversight over what you might expect to be a conventional astronomical tool is not unprecedented. A much smaller all-sky survey called Pan-STARRS, the same one which discovered Oumuamua, underwent massive censorship from the Air Force, with swaths of imagery redacted or blacked out. Astronomers complained that these redactions often got in the way of their work. Now, what if you were to spot a UFO on one of these things? Of course, the publicly stated reason for this has nothing to do with UFOs, and everything to do with classified spy satellites and military space assets. Most of the time, this is probably true, but it does have other implications. Past American alchemist Dr. Beatrice Villarreal discovered a possibly vast population of unknown objects orbiting the Earth.
Have you seen the talk with her? That was pretty interesting, man. Great woman. Was a good listen. I very much enjoyed that episode with him. Good talk. And one thing I do want to mention again is that you don't believe how much I appreciate every single one of you watching right now, because for me this is a lot. If there's one, it's a lot for me. So really, that you're spending your time with me watching something we all like. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. You really have no idea how much this means to me. Great support. So, fingers crossed.
She found tens of thousands of transients, light-reflecting, mirror-like objects orbiting the Earth. And she found them on astronomical plates from 1949 to 1957, before Sputnik or any American satellites were up in space. She also found them on astronomical plates from the Palomar Observatory, the same place associated with Carl Grillmair. Villarreal is currently working on replicating her results, and if I had to guess, I think we're gonna find some interesting corroboration for them.
I've been working with transients for a while. I think a lot of people know about this transient work. We have been looking for like multiple transients in images. Sometimes you can see multiple of them appearing and vanishing within half an hour.
So if there truly is a population of UFOs surrounding the Earth, the Rubin telescope, Grillmair's pet project at the end of his life, would certainly catch them. But again, anything it sees would have to get a Pentagon stamp of approval before ever reaching the general public and scientific community. Now, this is definite speculation, and I want to make the disclaimer that there's no direct evidence suggesting this, but the question has to be asked. Did Grillmair potentially see something in the Rubin data that wasn't meant for public release? He might have seen something classified, but why would he want to report on that? If he saw something more anomalous, it would be hard to tell him in good faith as a scientist to not tell the public. We may never know, but Dr. Grillmair's targeted killing leaves many questions unanswered.
That's a good theory, though. Yeah, it's a pretty good theory. The question is, though, is he the only one seeing those pictures? Is he the only one, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's supposed to be like more people that would then be dangerous and maybe a target, you know? Nevertheless, it's really bad and sad.
Snyder's bizarre lenient treatment, the disappearances of General McCasland, Monica Reza, and Melissa Casais are all notable because of the access they had to top secret intelligence and technology produced at our nation's premier space, science, and defense facilities. The murder of Carl Grillmair, if premeditated and intentional, would represent a terrifying escalation in this attack on science. A mind like Grillmair's doesn't come along very often. A senseless act of violence is always a tragedy, but when the expertise of an astronomer like Carl is wiped off the planet, we can leave no stone left unturned. Which brings us to another shocking and senseless act of violence that took out another of the world's preeminent scientific minds. This time, an expert on nuclear fusion.
Oh yeah.
Nuno Felipe Gomez Loureiro was born in 1970.
I think it was this weird thing where also Trump was having this deal with this energy company all of a sudden after he died or something. Oh man. Yeah. It's being so many of them in a very short amount of time.
7 in Viseu, a city in central Portugal. Even as a little boy, he always...
Wow, I've actually been there. Nice city, gotta say. Viseu. Can recommend. Good visit.
Knew he wanted to be a scientist. In a 2018 MIT profile, Nuno recalled how everyone else wanted to be a policeman or a fireman. He couldn't quite place the origin of his scientific interest. He followed that passion to Lisbon, where he received his undergraduate and master's degree at the Instituto Superior Técnico in Lisbon. Nuno then went on to attend Imperial College in London, earning a doctorate in physics in 2005, with a dissertation on tearing modes in plasma. After graduating, Nuno arrived in the United States to join Princeton University as a postdoctoral researcher at the Plasma Physics Lab in 2005. From 2007 to 2016, Nuno worked in a laboratory for the UK Atomic Energy Authority and as a researcher at the Plasma and Nuclear Fusion Institute in Portugal. In 2016, Loureiro returned to the United States, joining the faculty at MIT as a professor and fusion scientist.
I'm Nuno Loureiro. I'm a professor at MIT. My main appointment is in nuclear science and engineering.
He flourished at MIT and by 2022 became deputy director of MIT's largest lab, the Plasma Science and Fusion Center,
which is an umbrella research center at MIT for all the plasma and fusion related activities that we do on campus.
And in January 2025, President Joe Biden presented him with the Presidential Early Career Award, the highest US government honor for young scientists. To say Nuno was a renowned physicist would be a massive understatement. He was a leading expert in plasma physics. The work Nuno was conducting at MIT was attempting to solve the hardest problems in nuclear fusion. Problems that would unlock our capabilities in clean fusion power, potentially solving the world's energy crisis forever. For those unaware, nuclear fusion would be the ultimate clean energy dream, bringing the sun to the earth and powering our whole society. No fossil fuel pollution or Chernobyl-style meltdown necessary. Wielding fusion power would dramatically reduce the human need for fossil fuels. And with that, we might be able to avoid a lot of the geopolitical escapades we're seeing happening today. But there's one great...
Next rabbit hole. Is the oil of the earth ever ending? I don't know. Do you know?
Challenge. Plasma is a chaotic soup of charged ionized gas which behaves in wildly unpredictable ways. To contain it and to force the atoms to fuse demands a special magnetic field, one which binds the plasma up into just the right geometry and under just enough pressure to force the atoms to merge, despite the immense repulsive force between them. There are many challenges to nuclear fusion, but perhaps the greatest is the problem of the containment field. It is no simple task, but it's where Nuno Loureiro excelled. His research was especially focused on one of the greatest challenges in plasma containment fields: magnetic reconnection. Consider the loops of plasma we see on the sun. Plasma gets trapped in arcs of opposite magnetic force. It usually gets trapped in tubes of electromagnetic energy, hot particles rising out of the sun's surface and falling back in. Sometimes, like a rubber band that's been stretched too much, it snaps. The field lines break. All the energy stored in the field bursts out as the particles heat up and accelerate out. Then the field reconnects. This process causes solar flares and coronal mass ejections, the kind of events that could one day fry our entire grid with an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP. Nuno was a real blue sky researcher, studying the phenomenon of magnetic reconnection itself. But his work had extremely practical applications, because just as reconnection causes flares from the sun, it's also a major factor in our attempts to bring the sun's power down to Earth, and do so in the form of real nuclear fusion. Giant donut-shaped tokamak reactors use powerful magnets to contain superheated plasma, and magnetic reconnection is one of the greatest obstacles to sustained nuclear fusion. Just like plasma ejections from the sun, often with fusion, a leak gets created, leading to rapid cooling and pressure loss. This effectively stops the fusion process dead in its tracks. Nuno Loureiro was one of the world's experts in understanding the intricacies of exactly how and why these magnetic reconnection leaks happen. We don't know if Nuno came close to solving the problem of magnetic field line breaks, but we do know he was probably as close as anybody. And at 47 years old, it's safe to say he had many impressive decades of discovery and invention ahead of him. Except on December 15th, Dr. Nuno Loureiro was gunned down inside his Brookline, Massachusetts home. Nuno Loureiro was a husband, a father, an award-winning scientist, and expert in his field. He was shot in the foyer of his apartment while his wife...
Man, this Nuno was a husband and a father. Sounds so AI made, I swear. Every time you use AI for something like that, in terms of writing you something, it's giving you all those typical things, man.
Mother and daughters played a card game inside. The only other person who saw his killer was his 12-year-old daughter, who first answered the door for what she thought was a delivery man. Later, authorities would report that Claudio Manuel Neves Valente, the Portuguese national and top suspect in the shooting at Brown University that had occurred just 2 days prior, was likely also Nuno's killer. In some ways, this seemed very plausible. Nuno and Claudio had both studied physics together 20 years ago at Portugal's Instituto Superior Técnico. Physics programs are tight-knit. They're also highly competitive. The men certainly knew each other and were part of the same graduating class. But Nuno was actually an average student in undergrad, whereas Claudio was tied with another student for top of his class. Claudio had his heart set on MIT for graduate school, but as a surprise to everyone, he didn't score very well on his graduate school admissions test, making MIT a reach. He ultimately didn't get in. Claudio Valente was accepted to Brown University instead, but felt let down by a lack of academic rigor in their physics program, insisting his classes were too easy, covering material he'd already learned in undergrad. Claudio was described as egotistical and combative by his classmates at Brown. He only made it a year into the program before taking a leave of absence. Eventually, he dropped out of the program entirely and returned to Portugal. That year, he posted a disgruntled note online. Happy now? And some now believe Valente harbored deep resentment for his former classmate, Nuno Loureiro, whose massive success would have been a salt in the wound. Back in Portugal, tail between his legs, Valente worked at an internet company called Sapo, or SAPO. His colleagues described him as highly competent and rigorous, polite, but aloof. His closest friend at work, Sergio Bastos, who worked with him for 7 years, insisted Valente was an extraordinary professional. He did things that few people were capable of doing, but admitted that he was very lonely. I think one of the great regrets he had was that he couldn't create his own family, Mr. Bastos said. He had few social skills, and I don't think he had any girlfriends in the years we worked together. One day in 2013, Valente reported to work. He declared it would be his last day. He turned in his laptop, and he was never seen again. Bastos tried in vain to reach out, but at this point, no one from Valente's former life could make contact, including his own family. In 2017, Valente applied for and was awarded a visa to the United States. He settled in Miami, Florida, where authorities are still trying to piece together how exactly he spent his time. What we do know is that for the past 3 years, Valente rented a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire, and returned to Providence numerous times to conduct surveillance on the Brown campus. Investigators eventually traced Valente to Boston as early as November 17, 2025. By late November, he had checked into a Boston hotel and began making repeated trips to Providence. A janitor at Brown saw a masked man matching Valente's description inside the Barris and Hawley Engineering Building on November 28th, and again on December 1st. On December 1st, Valente rented a blue-gray Nissan Sentra with Florida plates. That car was seen repeatedly around Brown between December 1st and December 12th. The picture was clear. This was pre-operational reconnaissance. Valente executed his plan. on Saturday, December 13th, 2025. He barged into an open lecture hall in the Barris and Hawley building, the home of the physics department where students were taking final exams before their winter holiday. Around 4 p.m., Valente opened fire with a 9mm pistol, killing 2 students and injuring.
Dude, this gives me instantly like this MK Ultra vibes. Like, how would you know? Like, either you threaten him to kill your family when you're not doing it, or how in the world do you end up doing that? It's crazy.
9 others. Valente would leave a confessional video behind. It was filmed in his storage unit as a massive federal and state manhunt was still underway. He confessed that he had spent 6 semesters planning his attack at Brown. After the shooting on December 13th, Valente successfully evaded law enforcement for 2 full days, using a burner phone with a European SIM card, as well as swapping out credit cards and the license plate on his rental car. His identity remained a mystery. Valente might have gotten away with his crimes, except for the fact that he had one more act of violence planned. At some point between Saturday and Sunday, Valente drove back to Boston. And on Monday, December 15th, Valente spent the day pacing around Commonwealth Avenue. Maybe Valente saw Loureiro as a representation of everything he couldn't amount to. A successful academic, a family man, a leader in his field of physics, a successful emigrant to America. This may have just been a modern physics-based rendition of an age-old Shakespearean play. But still, there's something both strangely calculated and apprehensive about Claudio Valente's actions leading up to his confrontation with Loureiro. Authorities have much more information about Valente's whereabouts in Providence prior to his Brown shooting. After that, he kind of goes dark, and for the rest of Saturday and all of Sunday, Valente seems to drop off the map. On Monday, December 15th, Providence police were still circulating surveillance clips from Brown. They were also still interviewing survivors. The shooter had not been identified. That same evening, at about 8:30 p.m., Loureiro was shot at his home on Gibbs Street in Brookline, Massachusetts.
But there goes my "they're all protected" theory. I'm sorry. Nah, man, but this is the hard truth. Sad, man.
Massachusetts. Earlier that day, the familiar Nissan made its first appearance parked on Babcock Street around 8 a.m., 5 or 6 blocks from Loureiro's home. Then, starting around 1:20 p.m., police say security cameras recorded a masked person at different points along Commonwealth Avenue. Nuno reportedly got home from overseeing PhD qualifying exams at MIT that day around 6 p.m. At 8:23 p.m., a camera records the suspect, now masked and wearing a vest over his darker clothing. At 8:30 p.m., the doorbell to Loureiro's apartment rings repeatedly. His youngest daughter opens the front door and peeks into the foyer.
Oh no.
She sees through the glass a man standing inside of the building, but on the other side of the foyer door. Her description of the man's clothing is mostly in line with the footage revealed, but she adds that the yellow vest he wore had some gray stripes. There are a few discrepancies in her observations compared to the footage seen of the suspect that day. She even describes the shooter as having short facial hair, which suggests that he's not wearing a mask. And according to her, he's also wearing a winter hat and carrying a cardboard package about the size of a dictionary. She thinks he's a delivery man because the package has a barcode on it. Loureiro's daughter returns to the living room as Nuno replaces her at the front door to deal with the visitor. The whole family hears gunshots and rushes to Loureiro, who is wounded in the upper left chest, upper abdomen, right thigh, and has a graze wound through his left thigh. The daughter sees the shooter run to a blue or gray car parked across the street. At 8:35 p.m., the cameras outside a Boston University police department record a Nissan operated by someone wearing a high-vis vest. Minutes later, another
Man, you gotta be so traumatized watching something like that, being the daughter. They feel very sorry for her.
camera records the vehicle heading out of the city. If we're to believe that the shooter was Valente, it seems clear that once Loureiro was shot, he immediately went into hiding. He switched the rental car's plates to an unregistered plate from Maine, then drove to his storage facility in New Hampshire. Investigators said Valente entered that facility about an hour after the Brookline shooting. The Department of Justice transcript of the videos that Valente later recorded in that storage unit adds a very grim layer to the story. In these recordings, Valente said he had planned the Brown attack for a long time. The language Valente uses implies that both of the attacks were intentional, but it still leaves the reason for targeting Loureiro maddeningly vague. Yes, the two men had studied in the same university in the 1990s, but there's no evidence of a recent dispute, direct contact, or a concrete grievance tied to the Brookline attack. A second anomaly is the mismatch between planning and execution. Valente seems to have surveilled Brown repeatedly. He would return constantly to the same building. He rented both a car and storage unit in advance. Yet his own post-crime confession depicts the actual Brown shooting as totally botched. He said he never wanted to do it in an auditorium. He even suggested that people could have escaped via an emergency exit. He also complained about his eye injury and described the whole thing as, quote, a little incompetent. A third anomaly is the timeline gap between the two attacks. Where exactly was Valente in the roughly 48 hours before Loureiro was shot? Where was he staying? How did he locate Loureiro? How could he even be sure Loureiro was home? Nuno had only just returned from a trip to DC. Was he being tracked somehow? Valente's videos hint that the second slaying was also intentional, but not how far back the planning went. Detectives arrived on the scene to find Loureiro distressed but consciously alert. As he's transported to the hospital, one paramedic says he doesn't say anything. She believes he was in shock. He answers questions by shaking his head, but at the hospital, he was able to provide his name and information. If Loureiro had recognized his possibly unmasked killer as his former classmate, would he have said anything? Tragically, Nuno Loureiro went into surgery that evening, but did not survive. He was pronounced dead the following morning.
Damn.
In the days that followed, they spoke to the MIT professor's family and colleagues, and they said that there was no threat present, and they still have no motive.
Everything about this case is shocking, but particularly Valente's combination of caution and sloppiness. He went to great efforts and lengths in Providence to wipe any trace of his movements, keep his identity hidden. But then he arrives in Boston and paces back and forth in public locations that would obviously have security cameras. It almost seems as if he was having cold feet, or maybe he was awaiting instruction, subliminal or conscious instruction. As we've covered on this show, the horrifying ability to program assassins is remarkably easy, and it's been demonstrated.
This is what I was saying.
By governments globally and employed to take out targets at the highest level. What remains unresolved is why Loureiro was chosen, what exactly happened in the 2 days between the Brown massacre and the Brookline attack, and whether Loureiro had been a long-standing target or simply became one after the Brown shooting was already underway. What we do know is that Nuno Loureiro's loss is devastating. He wasn't just the head of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. Nuno was still an active professor, training the next generation of top scientific minds to push us farther in harnessing the power of our sun and creating clean energy on Earth. He was twice awarded.
Dude, he should have worked with the guys from the Sapphire Project. If you know about the Sapphire Project, if not, look into it, man. Sapphire Project, plasma technology, huge topics, you know, EVOs and stuff. Crazy topic. Way too deep to get into, but plasma is the thing, man. Plasma is the future, I'm telling you. Gotta invest into plasma, guys. Wow, that's something. I mean, I don't know if there are nice companies around already doing things with that, but plasma's the thing in the future.
The MIT Department of Nuclear Science and Engineering Outstanding Professor Award. He was given this for the beloved courses that he taught, both Intro to Plasma Physics and MHD Theory of Fusion Systems. MHD, or magnetohydrodynamics, also could have just as sensitive implications as nuclear fusion. It's the less focused on aspect of Loureiro's work.
And these are called the magnetohydrodynamic equations. They're hydrodynamics, but now there's a magnetic field, so you refer to this as magnetohydrodynamics.
Some believe that it could lead to a whole new paradigm in flight and propulsion. The point is, an attack on Nuno was an attack on the future of science.
Yeah, sentient plasma. Self-organizing sentient plasma, exactly. Incredible topic. I love it. I think we are just on the verge of discovering really what we can do with it. And even just hearing things from the whistleblowers and scientists that are working on that, it's already mind-blowing, basically, and that it's involved into, you know, all the anti-gravity propulsion systems in UAPs and stuff. It's what a nice topic to research, really.
There's no other way to say it. To put it simply, Nuno was the tip of the spear on sustained, clean, widespread nuclear fusion energy. Could that be why someone wanted him dead? This brings us to a strange coincidence we have to bring up when discussing Nuno Loureiro's murder.
Breaking news out of Brookline, an MIT professor shot and killed. He was shot several times in the foyer of his Brookline home.
Just 2 days after Nuno's death, one of the top privately funded fusion companies, TAE Technologies, announced a massive merger with a surprising publicly traded company. TAE would...
Exactly, that was what I was talking about before, man. Weird coincidences, the deal they had.
Merge with none other than Trump Media and Technology Group.
Oops. I don't know about that, bro. It could be kind of suspicious, to be honest, but I think I'm just tripping.
The company behind Trump's social media platform, Truth Social. The deal was announced on December 18th, 2025. Loureiro died on December 16th. The announcement didn't coincide with any decisive technical breakthroughs. Nonetheless, this combined entity was suddenly valued at around $6 billion. TAE is a private long-running experimental company. Their mission is to build aneutronic fusion reactors using hydrogen boron fuel to make commercial nuclear energy. But just like all fusion enterprises so far, they have yet to produce net energy or commercial power. TAE is still pre-revenue and pre-product in its core mission. So why is any of this relevant? Well, there are a few key competitors in the race with TAE to produce commercial nuclear power. One of their biggest competitors is a company called Commonwealth Fusion Systems. Commonwealth Fusion Systems is a company that emerged directly from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Its founders built their work on decades of MIT's institutional research. The MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center collaborates closely with the company and contributes fundamental plasma physics essential to its reactor design. And Nuno Loureiro was the director of the Plasma Science and Fusion Center at the time of his death. So the head of research that directly supports Commonwealth's aim of stable nuclear energy was assassinated on his doorstep.
We want to give you some context on exactly where this happened. The shooting was on Gibbs Street in Brookline.
Shot and killed at his Brookline home.
I'm walking around. I got children in the playground right around the corner.
Authorities say the Portuguese professor died at a hospital this morning.
And 2 days later, one of Commonwealth's biggest competitors announces a merger with a sitting president's publicly traded company. Does that mean anything? I'm not entirely sure, and I genuinely don't want to insinuate anything, but I also think...
Jesse, you don't want to do that, right? I mean, I feel you, but you always gotta mention that so people don't freak out. But it's good to ask questions, and why do we ask them? Because our intuition is telling us something. And usually when our intuition is telling us something, our intuition is not that far from the truth. right? A lot of times we are not wrong. So it's always good to ask questions. If you're wrong, fine. But I had to ask, you know?
It's dogmatic and unreasonable to say that the timing isn't odd. Again, there are reasonable explanations for this merger. Most analysts say that any fusion company will need the support of the federal government to bring this nascent, unproven, and extremely costly technology out of the laboratories and onto the power grid. It's simply too cost and infrastructure intensive and would involve a complete overhaul of our current grid system. There are other power players in oil and gas who have an interest in TAE. A great example is Chevron. Ultimately, the question remains, what lengths would the power players in energy go to shore up their survival and dominance? There's clearly a race to control the technology that could determine the future of energy, aerospace, and intelligence in our modern world. And Nuno Loureiro's research was at the heart of it.
I think on any given day, it's tempting to go for the low-hanging fruit, be a little more ambitious, and tackle the really hard problems.
Yeah, boy.
It would hardly be the first time scientific talent tied to strategic technology seemed to attract a shadow of danger. In the heart of the Cold War, as America raced to build Reagan's Star Wars missile shield, something deeply sinister began happening to the scientists building it.
It's a story so rich in intrigue that if it were fiction, it would likely be a bestseller, because all of the dead, almost 24 to date, worked in Western Europe's defense industry.
You might not know that Star Wars, also known as the Strategic Defense Initiative, was actually a joint effort between the United States and some of its key allies, like Great Britain. Between 1982 and 1990, 25 engineers and computer scientists, all working for GEC Marconi, on some of Britain's most classified defense projects, all died, one after another.
I call upon the scientific community in our country, those who gave us nuclear weapons, to turn their great talents now to the cause of mankind and world peace.
And each case was so bizarre. They consistently defied rational explanation. A 24-year-old jumped from a suspension bridge. His body was then found with mysterious needle puncture wounds in it. A 26-year-old allegedly drove his car away from a tree with a rope tied between his neck and its trunk, decapitating himself, and the coroner called it suicide. A Ministry of Defense consultant was found in his flat with his feet bound, a plastic bag over his head, and a rope coiled 4 times around his body. This was ruled an accident due to quote-unquote sexual misadventure.
What? Oh my god. Well, this is one hell of an explanation. Oh man, they're really trying.
Senior radar scientist loaded his car with extra petrol cans and drove it at full speed into an abandoned cafe.
Yeah, well, that's what happens, right? Drink one beer too much. Bruh.
Another was found electrocuted in his garden shed, wires attached to his body, a handkerchief stuffed in his mouth. Open verdict. One man simply disappeared during a research experiment at a reservoir and turned up months later in Paris with no memory of how he got there.
What? Really? This is... Oh no. Basically replaces a brain, or like brainwash them, you know, like, I don't know who I am. Oh my god. This is insane.
The British government investigated nothing, held no inquiry, classified the files, and to this day, not a single person has ever been charged. Was it the KGB, MI5, or something else entirely? Nobody knows. The case is officially closed, yet also unsolved. This is just one anomalously condensed example. Time and again, when scientific minds get closer to unlocking new facets of our reality, or get too close to the crown jewels of defense, they seem to be removed from the conversation. Take the disappearance of Mexican neurophysiologist and psychologist Jacobo Grinberg, who vanished in 1994, just after his biggest discovery. That space wasn't empty, but rather filled with a massive energy matrix he dubbed the lattice. How we see the world was based on our tether to this matrix, and those with the honed ability to synchronize their cognition with the lattice would be able to bend the hologram to their own designs, just like Neo in the Matrix. Grinberg had seemingly stumbled upon something foundational, and then he was never seen again.
Well, Jesse, your video is quite depressing, bro. No, but it's... I don't even know what to say anymore, man. I know I'm repeating myself, but... man. One day, they will experience justice. It is wild.
After convening with some top scientific minds in the year prior, his lab was cleared out and his records were erased. The only thing left behind was a single chilling note. If you understand the system, you disappear. Speaking of disappearances, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention one of the most famous disappearances in modern aviation tied to the scientific realm. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur with two...
Oh yeah, and it's pretty funny to see Ashton Forbes right now with like the WAV files basically bitching around on the net, man. It's... what are they doing? Ashton Forbes, I don't know, man. I don't like him. He's kind of weird, man. He's kind of arrogant in a way, hating on everyone. Weird guy. But yeah, flight MH370 is... those three orbs and just... it's gone. Well,
139 people aboard. Somewhere over the South China Sea, its transponder stopped transmitting. Malaysian military radar later showed that after going dark, the plane made an unexplained U-turn, flew for another several hours in the wrong direction, then vanished from the Earth so completely that despite the most expensive search in aviation history, only a small number of debris fragments believed to be from the MH370 crash have turned up alongside the coasts of Africa and a handful of Indian Ocean islands. And around that disappearance, a wild theory took shape. It centered on alleged drone footage and a companion infrared video. Researcher Ashton Forbes claims that these videos show MH370 over the Nicobar Islands being encircled by 3 fusion-powered plasma orbs that generate a spinning wormhole teleporting the plane westward, likely toward the Maldives or Diego Garcia, as part of a covert military black program operation targeting high-value engineers. Now, I want to be super clear. I don't know what to make of these videos. Impressive people from the intelligence and military world have told me they are very fake, and that, for example, they've never seen thermal infrared imaging on these sorts of systems in full color.
That's also what I hear from people claiming that it's definitely debunked already. A lot of people in the UFO space, they do claim the same thing. I mean, it's so abstract, I don't really have an opinion on it, right? How should I know? It is an interesting thing, nevertheless. But, I don't know, man. Everything is possible, right? But, we really don't know.
But there's another narrative that gets slept on and doesn't require any belief in UFOs zapping an airplane out of the sky. Among the documented passengers on the MH370 flight were 20 engineers from Freescale Semiconductor, an American semiconductor company that had just announced new products, including devices relevant to radar and electronic warfare for defense market applications. The employees included mostly Chinese and Malaysian specialists whose work involved the kind of microchip technology that sits at the intersection of civilian computing and military applications. Some researchers believe that this is what made the group valuable, not just as passengers on a missing plane, but as carriers of highly specialized scientific expertise. If those engineers were in fact tied to the future of military microelectronics, then they represented a goldmine of technical knowledge for the next generation of defense technology. In any case, it's not the first instance of a mysterious aircraft malfunction claiming the life of a top scientist. Itzhak Bentov was a self-taught inventor and scientist. Born in Czechoslovakia during World War II.
Jawohl, das ist die Reichsgrenze. Sorry man, I had to say that way because it's so German. Die Reichsgrenze. Super. I love it. I'm digging his hairstyle though. Looking good.
He escaped Nazi Germany to Israel. Once there, he helped invent the country's first rocket, despite lacking formal science training. But his true passion lay in unpacking the mysteries of consciousness, which he believed was made up of vibrating, harmonious atoms. His theories helped shape the foundation of the CIA's Gateway process, a protocol developed by consciousness researcher Robert Monroe in Virginia to achieve ascended states in consciousness, and possibly even astrally project. Bentov also consulted with the Stanford Research Institute and worked closely with many of the people in the US forming the CIA's psychic spy program, Stargate. Bentov's life was tragically cut short at 55 years old, when American Airlines Flight 191 crashed shortly after taking off from Chicago O'Hare Airport, claiming the lives of all crew and passengers on board. Many researchers in parapsychology and consciousness say that Bentov was as close to the truth or a theory of everything in consciousness that you could get. He also had deep ties with American and Israeli intelligence. He was even a close
Oh, now we're there. Now we're there. The ESRL ties. Then it gets definitely hella dangerous. No, but oh man.
Associate of Andrei Puharich, who was one of the earliest architects of MKUltra, the CIA's mind control program. Bentov's extremely dense and almost indecipherable book about consciousness, Stalking the Wild Pendulum, has become a cult classic, and many people who research him say the same things about him that they do Grinberg. If there is a matrix, this guy might have found out how to control it, and how to get out. But not every scientist on this list was lost in a single catastrophic moment. Some seemed to fade from view and get marginalized as their work moved deeper into the classified world. Take Ning Li, a Chinese-American physicist in Huntsville, Alabama, known for her radical work on superconductors and gravity control. Working with her colleague, Douglas Torr, she proposed that cooled Type II YBCO superconductors might produce tiny gravitomagnetic effects, a theory that pointed towards a possible path to gravity-controlled technology. After leaving the University of Alabama and receiving Defense Department funding, she largely vanished from public view, with rumors that her work had disappeared into the classified defense world. Her story took an even darker turn in 2014, when she was struck by a car on the University of Alabama campus and suffered permanent brain damage. She later developed Alzheimer's disease and died on July 27, 2021, leaving behind one of the more haunting stories in gravity research. A physicist
for Alzheimer, no medical advice. You know, I'm not a doctor, just saying. Look up lithium. Lithium. Interesting thing. Talking about Alzheimer. Very, very interesting thing.
Who chased gravity, vanished into secrecy, and never really came back. And then there's the story of John Norsine, a former Navy pilot, weapons designer, and neuroengineer at Lockheed Martin, who is known for his work in biofusion, biometrics, neuroweaponry, and information security concepts tied to neural pattern recognition and human-machine integration. He talks about brain prints, the idea that we have fingerprints, but you might also have a unique kind of
You have a
electromagnetic
unique,
signature, just like
cornea
iris
scan.
or whatever.
Your iris, yeah.
One close friend described his work in even darker terms, saying the weapons he designed involved manipulation of the mind, ideas that pushed into territory we'd never now categorize as cognitive warfare. You said that you spoke to John Norsine, and he was at Allagash in 1976 in August, when you guys were there and experienced your abduction. Is that right?
He read our report to the ranger that same day.
And what did he say he was doing there?
He said he was doing a TTR, tag, trace, retrieve exercise with a subcutaneous device that they were testing that they could
monitor
sort of like
GPS.
Field agents. You know, we tell them like blood pressure, heart rate, that sort of stuff.
Norsine died while on business for Concurrent Technologies on September 27, 2007. Exactly what happened remains unclear. Norsine's story brings us back to the larger pattern, because this is bigger than just one man or one strange death. Again and again, the people working closest to powerful, secret scientific knowledge.
I just want to say something in case my video cuts out. So my camera, I'm just changing batteries because I'm using my big camera right now. And I'm streaming for quite a while now because it's a long video. So it could happen that it's almost empty. I'm just gonna switch it quick, but then I will be right back. So don't leave.
Are the ones who seem to become the most vulnerable. So where does this leave us? With the realization that even our own government, the most powerful entity on Earth, seems unable or unwilling to fully protect the very people building its future. Or because every case points to the same explanation. For example, General Neil McCaslin's case seems eerily, possibly connected to Monica Reza's. The killing of Carl Grillmare seems possibly of the same variety as what happened to Nuno Loureiro. But ultimately, all of these cases could be isolated. Sometimes the explanations for these things involve extreme human irrational emotion. But sometimes they involve foul play. Whether it's homegrown black budget cleanup crews willing to kill anyone who gets too close to their proprietary technology, or foreign adversaries taking out experts to hollow out American brainpower before the next big war. The real crown jewels aren't the weapons or the hard drives, but the minds, the judgment, the intuition, and the years of trial and error that most people never see. You can steal documents or hack a server, but if you really want to shortcut the future, you steal the person who already solved the problem. We like to imagine the black world as restricted hangars and test sites, but the most valuable assets in the world still get up in the morning and drive to work.
True.
Maybe there's an even stranger possibility hovering over all of this, one that moves beyond terrestrial politics and into the highly speculative realm of exopolitics. Relations between Earth and other intelligences that average citizens might not even know exists. During the Bush administration, key players in the federal government were urged to read the Chinese science fiction novel, The Three-Body Problem, written by a power plant engineer, Xijin Liu.
Let's go.
It's about tri-Solarian extraterrestrials forced out of their own unstable solar system and headed for Earth. The tri-Solarians systematically monitor, mess with, and sometimes even kill human scientists at the frontier of human ingenuity. These are usually people working on nuclear, plasma, and particle accelerator physics. Sounds kind of familiar. Basically the scientists that control the rules of reality itself. So why was the upper echelon of the American government reading this book? Why did a presidential advisor named Harold Malmgren, who worked directly with JFK, LBJ, Nixon, and Ford, and who was briefed on UFOs. Why did he tell me that this is how the non-human intelligences operate? By tracking the frontier of human innovation.
They were opposed to anything which threatened their control.
So it's almost like the UFOs are more, it's not just the atomic connection, they're generically attracted to the tip of the spear as far as tech development.
That's at the heart of it.
Yeah.
Why was Harold's daughter, Pippa, who was on George W. Bush's National Economic Council, tasked with reading the three-body problem? And if connecting missing and dead scientists with aliens sounds super far-fetched, I get it. But it's worthy asking yourself why UFOs so very often seem to cluster around the very technologies that define strategic power. They show up at nuclear sites across the United States and the world. I've personally interviewed many whistleblowers who've worked at these bases who claim this. Robert Hastings, the author of the great book UFOs and Nukes, has talked to almost 170 of these people. There was even a UFO crash right next to Brookhaven National Labs. In case you're not aware, Brookhaven houses a very powerful particle accelerator called Cosmotron. Witnesses of the UFO crash claimed that the wreckage was cleaned up and taken to the lab. This isn't just an American phenomena. Russian General Vasily Alexeyev said that UFOs would show up when they transported sensitive scientific technology. The Soviets have records around UFOs showing up around their national labs and nuclear sites. Which brings us back to the strange question of why so many government officials were framing all of this problem. Maybe the three-body problem was hiding truth in fiction. There's an apocryphal story, and truthfully, I don't know how much weight to put in it, but it's absolutely wild. It involves former President Barack Obama and Pearl Jam lead singer Eddie Vedder drunk around a campfire. Eddie presses Obama on the true nature of reality. He wants to know how the world really works at the highest level. He senses that there are things going on above his head. Obama's answer? Read the three-body problem. I've had a lot of conversations where people have asked me to do a video essay commenting on these missing scientists. I went into this investigation unsure of whether any of these cases were linked at all. And honestly, I came out feeling like on a human level, they're mostly not. Perhaps with the exception of Monica Reza and McCaslin. Maybe it represents forces operating on levels higher than human clearance systems. Many people forget that science itself is weird. There's a long history of quote-unquote demons in science, written about extensively and eloquently by former Harvard professor Jimena Canales. Whether it's Heisenberg downloading matrix multiplication at Helgoland, Dirac staring at the fire at Cambridge and downloading the Dirac equation, Pauli dreaming up the architecture of the hydrogen atom, or Descartes having a series of his own prophetic dreams. If we were to apply scientific scrutiny to the process of scientific discovery itself, it might begin to look less like conventional science and inductive logic and more like revelation or something received. Maybe entities higher than humans on the food chain are both inspiring and at times stagnating science. What we do know for sure is that where there's truth, there's violence. This goes back to Socrates, and it's historically been the case with religious mystics. And if you think religious truths are worth dying for, and that science and religion meet at some omega point, then maybe this is all true for science too. Because if science really is brushing up against something deeper, the questions underneath this pattern start to get very dark. But whether the forces at work deleting these scientists are human or something stranger, the cost is the same. The people closest to the edges of what we know. The ones rewriting the rules of physics, scanning the sky for threats we can't see yet, and unlocking the science that shapes the next century. These are the ones we keep losing. Their minds were the prize. They were the ones taking us into the future, and they are now disappearing. The search continues, and the list is growing.
One of them is Alabama-based scientist Amy Eskridge. She was openly studying anti-gravity technology when she died.
I was talking about her before. She's a crazy interview. Crazy interview. I gotta say, I haven't seen the full interview. I gotta take a look onto that. Maybe actually, we're gonna watch that next time. That's a pretty interesting one. That could be good. Maybe we're gonna watch that one next. Let me know if you want to see that. Maybe you have seen it already, because I know it's out there for a while now. So I've just seen longer parts of it, not the full thing though.
In 2022. Her death was deemed a suicide by a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but she warned friends ahead of time that her life could be in danger.
I don't believe that she killed herself. I just can't, because I spoke to her 4 hours before and she told me time and time again, I'm not going to commit suicide. I am not going to have an accident. If there's something suspicious about my death, it's because it is.
If you're still watching, you're one of the first to hear about this. We just dropped a new limited merch collection. 2 tees, one off-white, one vintage black, plus hat. The design has a timeless retro supporting the show.
Well, guys, that was one hell of a good video, I would say, right? Oh, let's get a bit closer. Oh my god. It was long, full of information. Very, very entertaining, very depressing in a way, but also very grounding, because this is pretty much how our world is working, right? We all know that we're living in times where things are pretty fucked up in terms of new technology, new things that are coming out, and yeah, it's kind of not really. I mean, it brings a whole different perspective on the single happenings on each single scientist you were showing now. So it definitely, as I said, did clear up something. So in terms of that, they are most likely not like all connected in the same way. But it's still this pattern of seeing people working on something that could change everything for us as humans in terms of technology, not being dependent on certain institutions and stuff. In the end, it's all about the money and power, really. So yeah, man, it was a great video. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Jesse. And yeah, definitely some people I have to look into as well, because now I'm researching so many things, buying way too many books. I don't even have the time to read them all. But yeah, it's been a good time, man. So thank you guys for joining me, really. Every single one that was here watching with me, said hello. I really, really appreciate you, and hope you had a good time as well. And I mean, I hope I will see you in the next one. Not sure when it will happen. I'll let you know though. So in case you didn't follow me on X, so you stay in touch, and I will always give a message before I'm gonna go live, a day or so before. So anyways, guys, I really enjoyed that one. And again, thank you for everything. Thank you for saying hello. It's been a blast, man. Thank you for staying here on the channel and supporting me. We're just starting, pretty much. We're just starting. I'm hungry now, and there will be more. There will be more. So I hope you have a great day, guys. And I hope to see you again at some point. And have a good weekend. Have a good day. Have a good time with your loved ones whenever you're watching this. And I'm gonna see you on the next video, guys. Gotta get that stuff ready here. So yeah, man. Thank you so much. Have a good time. And I'll see you around, guys. Till then, I'm out of here. Ciao, ciao.